Hey everyone, and welcome to The Grind. We are talking about week 2 of our message series, The Mystery of Marriage, where it is a mystery for me and Nathan, and probably still is a mystery for Rico, but probably a little bit more far ahead in that journey.
Just give him a bit more time.
Yeah, far ahead in the journey than both of us. And
Yes.
today we're going to talk about romance in marriage.
Dun, dun, dun.
No, I'm just kidding.
Because every marriage, and that builds romance in every marriage. That specific song, that specific.
Every marriage needs Careless Whisper.
Yes, I'm pretty sure I heard that at some point, in my life growing up too, at home. Anyways.
Whoa!
No, the song.
Oh, okay.
The song. So, Pastor had talked about romance in marriage, and actually was focusing on the topic of sexual sin and sex and the importance of sex and how it should stay within marriage. Now, a question to start us off is, what has been the most influential in the understanding of sexual do's and don'ts?
I think we should let Rico go first.
Because he's
been looking forward to this episode.
Well, I
for so
think,
long.
to be honest,
He's
this
still-
is the only question that I'll be answering.
Oh!
No, yeah. So, I
better be
think
good.
especially during our generation, there were a lot of movies.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Especially during our teens. Like,
Yeah.
you guys know what are the movies.
Yeah.
And probably, in some ways, church and my parents,
Oh.
especially my dad, actually.
Oh, nice.
You guys had the talk.
It's more of like an awkward laugh. So
Oh,
Dad,
please, tell us how.
Yes. Just those stuff.
Just like, don't even ask the question. He's like, yes.
So Dad, regarding men and women and in that area, it's just gonna be like, yes. Yeah, just like that.
How are you gonna bring it up with Ruth next time?
Yeah. I'll just leave that to Rachel,
It's
to be honest.
Cristobal
to my wife.
family tradition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll just pass that to. I'll probably talk to my son.
Well, I honestly don't remember having a conscious conversation about sex with my parents. Really don't. Maybe we laugh about it, maybe. But I don't know if if I sat down and be like, hey mom, hey dad, where do like babies come from? But I would say movies and school.
So yeah, school, movies, American Pie, Euro Trip.
Oh,
Yeah, you're.
Not another teen movie.
Oh yeah, all
of
these
them.
movies. For some
Yeah.
reason, during our generation, those
yeah,
were the
that
movies.
period, right? Those
Yeah.
teen movies.
I think
Which
it
is-
explains why people our age are just so.
It's possible. Maybe that's why, divorces and everything in our generation is just like happens just like that,
Yeah.
Unfortunately, yeah.
right? And because our concept of sex, we didn't have parents who were open to maybe talk about it or comfortable
Because
to talk about
we're
it.
Asian. The extent of that conversation was, don't do it.
Don't
the
even
right
say that
thing.
word.
Don't do it.
Be a man, do the right thing. Basically, don't do it. Okay.
Yeah.
So, Pastor was basically emphasizing, we do live in a very sex-saturated culture, and I think, yes, it was
Accurate.
quite saturated when we were teenagers, but
Yeah.
it's just as saturated now. Like before, I think over the years we get desensitized. Like when we see like a banner that says like sex shop, we're like, ah ha 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 ha, and then now it's like, oh, okay, just
Yeah.
another like sex shop, selling toys, whatever it is, So, what we do realize is that there are consequences to sexual sin, and Pastor talks about self-control. Actually, you think about it, like we think about self-control as like, we have to like control our desires and everything, but really self-control is an important part and reflection of one's maturity and purity. So, like for married people, aka Rico, to fight sexual temptation is to pursue marital intimacy with Rachel.
Yep.
Then for us, is to pursue God's will regarding relationships and purity. And it's actually kind of crazy how when we think like, oh, I can stand, I can handle sexual temptation, but the thing is like we are not stronger than we think it is.
Very true.
So Satan wants us to think that we won't take our sin to the next level, and once you mess with like sin, it's it's kind of hard to get out of it. And I am sure that we here have maybe experiences with people that have been sexually promiscuous. So, what are some of the consequences, that we've seen happen?
I remember I was at a men's conference and we were shown some of the consequences because the guy speaking was a doctor, right?
Oh.
So he showed us physical consequences of sexual sin. And so there's like me and a few younger guys at the back seeing essentially graphic photos go up on this screen.
Oh,
and we're
dude.
just like, no, make it stop. So like that has like I will always remember that. Like,
Sexual sin and
as in like STDs.
Oh,
and
STDs.
DDs
Oh.
and all that stuff. And like
I
what
see.
it does to your body
Ah.
and everything. And I will never unsee those images.
I think for me it's just mainly the news about like people who have committed adultery and they're being like exposed on TV, or even those really funny shows, like I forgot what it's called, like the old one where the couples would confront and then they would say like,
Oh, what, like Jerry Springer?
yes,
and
that one. That one.
Those are great shows,
Yeah.
Whoa.
So,
but not great. Sorry, guys. Yes.
yeah. So those are the ones that I'm being reminded of, like the consequences of like, like a cheating husband or a cheating wife, or
Basically,
yeah.
your dirty laundry on air for the world to see.
Yes.
I think I've known people who are, committed adultery and, seen the extent of it. And yes, it does make hot gossip for a while. It's like, oh my gosh, did you know this person did this? And then like, can't believe they did that, or just people being like promiscuous. But you just see the pain
Yeah.
that happen. Like
Yeah.
marriages are broken. You see them trying to get back together, but it doesn't happen. But then you also hear stories of like people who do commit sexual sin, but then there are there's healing that happen, and then they
Redemption,
come out
right?
like to be stronger, and their testimony is encouraging like married couples all around. So obviously we don't want people to fall so low, be brought down so low and have commit adultery, and then like, yes, Jesus came through my life. Like, we obviously don't want that to happen. But I think with every opportunity, there's with sin, like there is no sin too big for Jesus to forgive, and
amen.
no bondage too strong for Jesus to deliver. So
Yeah.
I think the idea is that yes, adultery, yes, may have happened, but Jesus has redemption.
Yeah.
So we've all gotten like our sexual advice from TV, school and so on. But what is some of the advice that you've heard over the years about sex? Like the one I had was like, oh, sex, it's like sticky tape. If you keep having sex with people, if you like sticky tape, if you stick. By the time you get to your husband, it's like, it's all the dirt. You pick up all the dirt from different people. Yeah.
Yeah, people are always saying like, oh, you need to take the car out for a test drive before you buy it. Like, see what it's like. I don't know.
Yeah. So, how's it been for you managing your sex drive?
Well, I'm married, so that's how I manage it.
Ah.
I think what we talked about earlier, in that sometimes you see a lot of things go wrong because of it.
Yeah.
And I have enough things going wrong of my own making, so I don't need to add that on as extra.
Yeah.
So call them cautionary tales or whatever, or learning from other people's experiences, whatever you
Yeah,
want to call it.
Yeah.
It's that. And also the hope that, it's going to be worth it at the end.
Like, I am very pain adverse. Like, I hate pain, and I will do everything to avoid pain if possible. And I heard that emotional pain is more painful than physical pain. So why would I want to put myself in that position to risk getting that much pain in terms of sexual?
Sure, yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I would think that if I were to have sex with someone who's not going to be my husband, then it's going to be a part of myself given to him.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I'm pretty sure there's that connection. I wouldn't be able to like, speak from experience, but that's what I would imagine.
Yeah.
And then, like, let's say that person is not my husband, and then obviously, like, it's like a bit of my soul is like gone, right? Like, and then it's just like, just having sex with so many people then just doesn't make sex like, special. So I think first and foremost, when it comes to like obviously, yeah, I have struggled, right? But I think in terms of maintaining sexual purity, pursuing God first, like my relationship with God, like finding my
That's good.
fulfillment in Him. Because I think when people try to find fulfillment in sex, is because they're trying to fulfill desires of the flesh without realizing that God, putting their focus on God and fixing their eyes on Jesus. I don't know. I know like sex is such a like tricky topic, and it's not exactly like a conversation that we have with people like, hey, let's talk about sex. And it's not like a topic that's a dinner conversation table like, hey, so sex, what's your thoughts?
Yeah.
That's not it.
Probably
But-
the only conversation you would have this would be your friends. Because
Exactly.
you guys would talk about it
Yeah.
in the aspect of jokes.
And let's be honest, we wouldn't be talking about it if it wasn't a sermon.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Like, this is not a natural conversation for us to have over
Yep.
lunch. Like, hey, sex, thoughts? We would joke maybe, but
Yeah.
never a serious conversation.
Yes.
But let me end on a more serious conversation. Is why do you think it's so hard to talk about sex at church, but we find it so much easier to talk about sex outside?
I think honestly it has something to do with it being intimate, right? Like it's something that it's between like what we're talking about is between husband and wife, and putting it into context of like as a whole human community, it's really hard to kind of like put it into perspective. So yeah, it's just, and also most likely there are going to be a lot of like dirty secrets coming out if you guys are going to be talking about it.
Yeah. Like, the whole topic of sex seems like so taboo,
Yeah.
And recently at River, we did a talk about sex, actually, where Josh Perry was just kind of like giving a talk about just like the whole design for sex and everything. And some of the kids were like, wow, thank you for being so brutally honest about sex. Never been that open about sex in a concept of church. And they actually appreciate it, because I think, if anything, church should be a safe place to talk about
Yes.
such
Yeah.
a big topic.
Yes.
It should be.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be taboo. It shouldn't be like, oh, I think maybe just the growing up of like just the taboos, like, oh, it's a worldly thing. We don't deal with
Yeah.
it. Keep your emotions in check, control yourself,
Yeah.
love of the Holy Spirit, blah, 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 blah. Control.
Yeah.
I think also because within the context of church, and whenever we do talk about sex, it's like what was said is should be between a husband and a wife.
Yeah.
It's like you said, it's that intimate.
Yeah.
So to take that topic, which is meant to be so intimate, so small, like tight, and then throw it out there into the wide open world, even if it is in church,
Yeah.
right? It's like what people say, like hanging out your laundry
Oh, yeah,
for
yeah.
everyone to see.
Yeah.
And if you have questions, more often than not, they're embarrassing because
Yeah.
it's like it's not stuff you talk about openly.
Yeah.
You'd rather just keep that between you and one other person
Yeah.
rather
Yeah.
than
Yeah.
an audience.
Yeah.
Hi, internet. So
Yeah, the internet now knows our dirty laundry.
Yeah.
yeah, so I think that's why it's difficult, is because we've been maybe conditioned in a way to keep it so small.
Yeah.
Whereas if you want to talk about it in bigger groups, you have to go out of that setting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think one thing I really appreciate about this particular message also is about like going out of our comfort zone and understanding the fact that sex isn't about avoiding it, especially for people at such a young age who may be questioning these questions about sex.
Yeah.
But being able to understand that instead of avoiding it, is about trying to preserve it.
Right. Yeah.
You get what I mean? Like
Yeah.
preserving it to the part where you find the person you love and you know that he or she will be your husband
Yeah.
or your wife, and
Yeah.
then go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah.
And I think maybe also one of the reasons why people find it hard to maybe trust the church to talk about sex or everything is, again, in our generation came out a piece of literature that was not helpful was the book I Kissed Dating Goodbye. And so I think
What
when,
a hot mess that was.
yeah, so I think when people think church and sex, they think that we are really strict on it, like do not have sex and that's it, like don't even talk about it.
Yeah,
Right, because
yeah.
that book
That's-
kind of just like basically says like if you date, basically date as though you're, you know, your husband or wife, and that's just so much pressure and like, you know, just
And if it
emphasizing.
doesn't work out, you're damaged goods forever.
Yeah, basically, it's like it de-emphasized grace, you know, and it was so legalistic. And well, fun fact: that guy wrote the book when he was only 21. At 21,
He knew nothing.
I knew nothing when I was 21,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and he also denounced the book now, and is So I think
Because of it, a lot of judgment comes with talking about sex. I
Yeah.
think.
exactly.
And the judgment is maybe what puts people off the most, I think.
And yeah, possible. And so I think I would say a lot of our generation is dealing with the effects of that. You know, like church, like have to be so strict, you know, on sex, like da da da, and then there doesn't seem to be a space to kind of like process feelings, like, but what do I do with it? You know, it seems I just need to put it inside a box and just store it in a corner and then hope it'll go away. But you know, as we heard Pastor Wright say, you know, it's about like self-control. It's not like, oh, and like purity line's not a line not to be crossed. It's basically an act of a posture of your heart and your mind. And so it's again like pursuing. What are you pursuing, right? Again, if you're married, pursue intimacy with your spouse, but
Yeah.
obviously put Jesus at the center. And likewise, I think in all situations is putting Jesus at the center and pursuing a relationship with Him. So yeah, I mean, whether you've joined us online or right here, you know, we've all had like, you know, pieces of advice. Some of them are, you know, sound. Some of them were, you know,
Not so
basically
sound.
not so sound and can be just thrown out the window and forever ignored. But the bottom line is that when God created sex, it was meant to be enjoyed within the confines of marriage, and that it is a beautiful thing there. Outside, like sex is like fire. You know, if you don't place it in the right place, it could just explode and consume and like cannot be controlled. Yeah, hopefully you realize that it is a safe place to talk about sex at church, you know, with people. That's not like a taboo, you know, subject.
If you need any help, just speak to Katrina.
Or the married man who knows more about it than I would. All right.
Or
It's none of my business.
Trick sister. All right. Anyways, thanks for joining us, and thanks for sharing your insights. And we'll catch you next time.
bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.